As soon as then we're able to fix the mapping from our balances, what we receive from Exchequer, we'll still have to earmark and put it aside and transfer the whole amount, including the arrears, to that retention account so that we're able to pay.
I'm sorry, Governor. This committee is driven by facts. If there's a fact in the CRF, please point it out. If it's not there, then let's go to note 33. Because I thought we'd get some salvation there, but let's go to note 33. So, Governor, what have you reported as customer deposits, prepayments, and total deposits in your financial statements? Customer deposits?
It's not in, it's
payments?
Nil.
Other deposits?
Nil.
Total deposits?
Nil.
Yet the Auditor General finds that there's 62 million that ought to be retained for suppliers. So where did the money go to if it was not reported?
Yeah, and in addition, retention money is contractors' money. It is their money. So if it is not there, it was probably stolen or misappropriated. Because even looking at Governor, in addition to what you have asked, even looking at note number 21 and 21A or detail, even on special purpose account that the CCM Governor is alluding to, does not add up. And I thought OAG, the retention and deposits account should maintain on its own because it is the contractor's money. Can I take retention money and give it to the employee cost as per the law? Then the procedure of reallocation under the PMF Act, Chair, even if the governor was to tell us he reallocated, then there must be legal procedure of that movement. So this 62 million, even if you look at note number 21, 21A, and you look at note number 33, which has reflected zero, this money cannot be traced, Chair, this 62 million. Unless whoever prepared, even I've looked at the CRF account, financial statements that the governor is trying to allude to, it is not traceable. Because even if it was in a global figure, it should have been reflected in the CRF document or the statement of the OAG. So, Chair, I think looking at all this, since there is no movement, and you know they say numbers don't lie, other things can lie, it is hard to trace where this retention money of 62 million is. And it points back to the initial disclosure of financial statements.
Okay, I want to hear from the National Treasury because they've given us guidance on this matter in the past.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Probably I begin by educating how the deposit money is handled. Because at the point of pay, the contractor or the supplier they are entitled to that deposit, probably the way it was defined in the contract. That is, at that point of payment, that is when you feed in the IFUNIS the percentage that you pay. And then you pay the contractor account, and the 10% retention you pay to the deposit account itself. Then update the deposit rate so that when that contractor will come seeking for their money, because actually it is not the account is money for that part of that contractor, you'll be able to pay using the range of kept because it is stating we have paid this amount of money for XYZ. But now the way the situation is here, it's like there is no traceability, there is no visibility. I'm even wondering when that contractor will come, how to be able to know what is the percent for that contractor fails.
You have heard the concerns from members of the National Treasury. has found its how do we what is your view? I know in the 11th Parliament where we're doing the Senate. So assuming you are sitting where I'm sitting, what would you make of this?
I think, Chair, would probably be exactly the same position where you are, where it's clear, you are not able to make that clarity. But I think the explanation that has been given by our CEC explained that when we opened the retention account at the central bank, we had a mapping issue. It wasn't, we were not able to operationalize the account at that time. But the fact that we did not operationalize that account at that time did not mean that the retention money was, the retention was being retained within the CRF, so that the contractor was being paid is 90%, the 10% retention was, still remained within the county, and when the time comes for the contractor to be paid, pending sorting out the mapping issues in the central bank account, then we just budget for it and the contractor is paid. Of course, it's clear, for every contract, the percentage for retention is not. So it can't be chaos because it's known that this was the amount of the contract. He was paid 90%, 10% is outstanding. So that is really the case. And not just unique in this particular case. Even previously, when we had a huge struggle with disbursements, Chair, sometimes if you are driven by the reason to pay contractors, if you get whatever amount that you have gotten, and this retention might still be needed, even as you put in the account, this retention will be needed in 2, 3 or so months, depending on the period that will be needed. So if you do not have all the resources at that time, some cash flow management situation that practically we find ourselves in is you pay the contractor is 90%, as and all the other contractors, sometimes you actually are not able to save enough to directly transfer to the retention account at that particular time. But since you know that this amount will not be needed for the next at least 2 or 3 months, you can still pay the contractors as you wait for the resources to come. And when the resources come, you're able to set aside that amount. It may not be the right thing to do, but sometimes it's a practical way of dealing with cash flow challenges that we have had. So, Chair, if you then would give us the opportunity to, together with even the schedule for the 270, because I think there are quite a number of outstanding, clarifications that we have to make on this particular audit query and the two previous ones. If you then can give us or, direct us to work out on this, we can be able to do it.
No. At this point, Governor, yeah. And I think when you explain it for very long, it means that even you are making up words, on the go. Are you satisfied with that explanation, particularly the one on record, the one that you submitted, the one you tabled on record? Is that the explanation that we should take, that we should go back to the County Revenue Fund?
Yes.
But I have shown you the County Revenue Fund statement so that you can show us where the numbers are, and you've not been able to.
On the flip side, Chair, because the schedule of those who are supposed to be paid is there, adding up to 62 million or 9. That schedule is there. But then we are trying to locate the money in the accounts. That money is not there. So then how do you intend to pay if you take the governor's explanation? If the suppliers, the contractors come for their deposits, how do you intend to pay? In the current budget, do you have maybe a budget line for this 62 million? Because from the records, it's not there. It's not in the accounts. So how do you intend to pay?
But also, let's remember that money is retained and money is already approved by the control of budget.
Right.
Control of budget, is that the case?
Yeah, that is very true.
So you can't come back again with a fresh requisition?
It is in addition what money that is statutorily deducted
Yes.
from the employees and is supposed to be given to pension schemes or any other form of state reduction is the money that has already gone out and has been approved by the COP, just like retention money. And that is why I was saying this contractors' money. So when you go and blow it back, either through reallocation or that movement, then it is already unprocedural and illegal. So you cannot budget again, Governor, for something that has already been approved by COP. It's already there.
And then again, reallocations can happen in certain circumstances, but there is a procedure. There are some approvals that must be obtained for reallocations. I think we have dealt with some here. You recall, members, the 5 million that was diverted in Vihiga to a housewarming. And I think there was some 10 million that was diverted in Embu to a different exercise. There must be some approvals and some procedures. So, Governor, please tell us, where is this 62 million? Because all these explanations have not addressed the 62 million. It has been requisitioned, the control of budget has approved, the money has come to the county, you are paid less the 62 million, but it is not in the bank account. It is not in the financial statements. Before we conclude that this was stolen, are you able to explain to us with detailed evidence where the 62 million is? Because there's been a lot of prose, a lot of speculation of what may have happened. Let's focus on the 62 million. Do you have a register for retentions and deposits? And even if you have that register totaling to 62 million, where is the cash? That money has already been released by the control of budget. Where is it?
I quite agree with you because I'm remembering what the treasurer was saying, that you get, if it's a tender for 10 million, you're given the 10 million by the control of budget, then you pay the 90%, the 10% is retained.
It's retained.
So you're given all that money. Unless now you're saying the 10% was really misappropriated. Thank you.
So the money comes. The money comes. They have the money. So the controller will not even accept a fresh requisition for it. So, Governor, where is 62 million owed to suppliers? Let's just now address ourselves to that. Let's not hypothesize that it could be there, it could be there. Let us know, where is this 62 million as retained by the entity? It is not in the bank account. It is not reported in note 33, it is zero. But in reality, the control of budget has approved positions, out of which 62 million is supposed to pay service provider, and it is not in the bank. Whose pocket is it in?
Through the Governor Chair, yes, when the control of budget approves the requisition, it's 100%. But at the point of payment at central bank, there'll be payment that goes straight to carrier. There'll be another payment that goes to the contractor, possibly NITA or any other deduction relating to that payment. And then the other payment should be a payment that goes straight to the retention account, which in our case, that is the one that is missing. It then means that no money moves from our CRF to the retention account, simply because of the reasons that I mentioned of the mapping. A good example, Chair, is that recently we needed to pay a retention amount of about 27 million. We made a requisition, but we encountered a challenge where it still wanted to deduct taxes afresh. Yet we know in the original contract, as you rightfully put, is that taxes and all those other deductions have been made. So that is the challenge we're grappling with. Now, what that means is that the 10% remains unpaid out. It's not that it was wired anywhere.
Where does it go to?
It still remains in the CRF. And since we are making payments, for example, when we receive 500 million, the payments out of CRF will be equivalent to 500 million. Yet in actual sense, assuming we're paying contractors, we should be paying out 450 million and 50 million to the retention. So since the leg of the retention account is missing, as a cash flow management issue, then we end up using everything. But as Governor mentioned, is that for any contractor now who needs to be paid their retention, we have to sort out at the supplementary level. And in this case, the payment is through the COBS, but waiving the deductions because already that processing had been done at the initial level when we did the requisition. So it is a direct payment to transfer our money from our budget to the retention account, noting that we had already met. So that will sort the problem going forward of the historical issues. But then going forward, it then means with the cash flow stabilizing, we'll be able to do that in real time.
See, you can be a good teacher, but a poor problem solver. Where is this 62 million?
It's Chair, it's lying in the CRF. Whatever money that is left in the CRF is to account for all the unpaid claims.
Why did the PFM require you to establish deposits and retentions account?
Yeah, and why did you transfer that money? Because this is just unique for Nandi.
Yeah.
Other counties would have that retention account, but then borrow it and use it for something else and return it. But for you, with the officers, there's a challenge of transferring that 10% to that special purpose account. What is the challenge?
Remember, it's not optional. Your neighboring county of Kericho, part of the charges when the governor was brought to the Senate on impeachment, which we did not consider because it terminated on preliminaries, was misuse of retention and deposits account. It's something significant that it can lead to the impeachment of a governor. And yet the governor is not involved in the day-to-day. It's these officers. No. So governor, if you're going to accept this kind of stories, then one day, God forbid, your MCAs come for you for misuse of deposits and retentions, as happened in Kericho, you'll find yourself asking yourself why you didn't ask these questions earlier. There's a reason why that account must be established, and that requirement is in statute and in regulation. It cannot be optional. You can't have your own version of the PFM.
And I've had the explanation, Governor, you see, it doesn't answer because, let me repeat it again, retention money is like debt reduction. It is approved by COP. It is money that should be in account. Chair, there is no other explanation. If the governor cannot tell us where 62 million is, then it was eaten, Chair. Because if he cannot pinpoint and say, and the explanation of CCM is explicit, but we are just wondering where is the cash. If a chair he can point us and say this is the retention account that has 62 million, just the way he was arguing on the employee cost payables, Governor, you say it is nil, but you agree with us that it could not be nil. So the position is very simple. We want to see this 62. And the chair, I've gone through the CRF, what the governor, and I thought the governor would have redacted this statement that he said it is in CRF account. Because, Governor, looking at the financial statement of CRF account, there is nowhere that it indicates that there is where this can be traced to 62 million. Chair, I think you just make a ruling, then we can proceed.
Maybe just to, as you respond, Governor, your officer said that you initially operated a commercial bank account for retentions, and then you advised to open a central bank account. That's a position. And you're saying that sometimes the auto allocation at the point of payment does not work because of the account. Why? And yet here the auditor says that the executive operated deposits and retention bank account at the Central Bank of Kenya with nil balance. So you have the account at Central Bank. So why would you tell us that tax can go, SHA can go, but retentions cannot go? That you don't have an account? And here the auditor confirms you have an account.
Yes, Chair, yes. We opened the account recently with CBK. So what we're dealing with is just the mapping issues at IFMIS level, so that then it goes just the way SHA goes. And
recently is when?
Confirm.
Is it this year?
Yes,
this month of July.
Within this financial year, I'll confirm exactly.
No, but this was established in the last financial year. So you see, if it disqualifies the long arguments that you made, that the money will not go to retentions because of lack of a bank account, and then it goes to general CRF. Please,
Yeah,
help us also, give us explanations that can help us understand the process, because you're the technician.
Yes.
But if you're going to mislead us, I think the governor knows the consequences of giving misleading information to Parliament.
Yeah, recently, is it in the financial year 25-26? Because you're dealing with the financial year 24-25. So when is recent?
Recent chair is towards the end of 24-25 financial year. That's about, give it June, thereabouts.
I think we are being too casual. Governor, we are being too casual on numbers. I wish you could have some sense of seriousness about this, because if you would have asked me to give you time to go and compile your retentions register and to reconcile payments that have been made and to go back and ensure that your account is funded, that would be a better position. But if you try to explain, giving us stories that make no sense, then I think we are taking the Senate casually.
Chair, through the governor, is that whereas in the past we've not been able to make these retentions because of the cash flow issues we've said, our undertaking is that now that we have the retention account, beyond the 62 million, we'll be able then to compute all the amounts that are due for retention in terms of, because we only retain for contracts above 5 million. Then we're able to file and make a provision in the budget so that the entire amount is swept, because the position is that we only paid out 90%. The other 10% went into other payments, as it were, in terms of it is money in the account, so you end up paying next contractor, you pay an extra contractor instead
officer,
of... So
you have not even demonstrated a single contractor who has been paid the 90%. Paying 90% is not a problem. Our concern is that money ring-fenced for its intended purpose? And ring-fencing it means that you've got a certificate from the bank that the 62 million is in there. Whether you pay 90% is neither here nor there, because you can hold that money for 3 years. There's nothing wrong. It's a supplier who should file, isn't it? If the contractor does not file, then you can't pay. So that's not our problem. Whether you paid 90% or 80%, or whether you've paid nothing, that's a different problem. Here, you have deducted, but the money cannot be traced. That is a problem that we need to address ourselves to. And traceability of the money.
And in which we're dealing with 24-25 financial year. So most of the contractors have completed their defect liability period. So are you paying them after the lapse of that period? From which budget are you paying them in the 25-26 financial year?
Well, thank you. Through the governor, is that, well, we are lucky that most of our projects are really small projects, 2 million, 4 million, 3 million, which we don't retain. So oftentimes that is 100%. The few projects that then go above or the amount at which we retain, especially the flagship projects, you find they're either still ongoing, or the few that are complete is where now on need basis, or as and when the contractor files the claim, we're now able to now look around and try and get the money. So,
and which are they? Which are those?
The projects?
Because there's no register even for retentions here.
Well, we have that, Chair, we could provide. An example is we did our hospital. The contractor has now filed with us retention.
Do you know the contractors you owe retention? Do you know that?
Yes, we know.
Do you know them?
Yes. We have a list of...
Where is that schedule?
We don't have the list of the retention here because it was
that was one way of solving this matter.
Yeah.
To demonstrate that yes, you know the people you owe 62 million.
Yeah.
So even if their money is in CRF, but you know. But you have come with nothing.
Actually, Chair, my reading of this query is that the auditors found from that supporting schedule of 62 million for the people who are owed the deposits. But then the money is not there. I think that schedule must be there. It's there.
Yes, Chair, the schedule is there. We know who owes us. It's only the money.
So how do we conclude about the money? The 62 million? Because if it's in CRF, then it means it will be subjected to another budget cycle, and yet the money had already been approved for release.
And maybe, Chair, I'm trying to get an explanation of CCM. is already says there is an established account towards the end of financial year 24-25. And the issue of cash flows is not an issue. The point I'm trying to make is that we have agreed that this money was budgeted, approved, and released by the COB. So the question, the fact that they can pay does not mean where these 62 million are in cash. And I've seen in note number 21A in your financial statements on executive governor, I cannot see, I have seen you have a number of accounts that you have opened with Central Bank or CBK, but it's not indicative of where 62 million is. Chair, to me, this money cannot be traced. Because long and short, and the chief officer of finance and the one on the retention and deposit register, which I don't know, OAG, did you see the retention and deposits register in the course of your audit anywhere through the chair? Sorry. Through the chair.
OAG.
Thank you, Chair. The amount in this query, number 2, was based on extracts from payments that were made towards the end of the financial year, before the expiry of the defects liability period. So this amount is based on the payments, not a specific schedule prepared by the county. Thank you, Chair.
Now, members, we probably need to make progress and go into the other significant matters that have been raised there, but we need to get out of this issue of inaccuracies of the financial statements. And Governor, I think this long conversation has indicated that on the face of it, your financial statements are inaccurate. They do not provide a true and fair picture of the organization. We have looked at trade payables. We have seen that there was a significant non-disclosure of opening balances, 278 million by your own account. But you have further put it on record that you are aging. You accept that it might not be accurate due to the manual nature of your computations. You have failed to disclose staff payables. You have failed to disclose your deposits, prepayments, and retentions. You have failed to provide the bank certificates to show where the 62 million is. There is serious inaccuracies, there's serious misstatement of your financial statements. The CPAs who prepared these financial statements, CPA Mark Toll and CPA Priska Jepchirchir, is there any reason why we should not refer you to the professional body for disciplinary action for the inaccuracies and misstatements that have been confirmed in these financial statements? I think if they're in the room, they should, before we give them the opportunity to explain themselves, before we make that conclusion. That's on the professional negligence. Of course, there'll be other conclusions on the numbers.
Chair, so as you rule, I thought you, as the two lady and gentlemen explained their position, this inconsistency has created us not clarity on variation of 278 million, the initial one, the clarity on the pending bills, that is loan outstanding, trade and payables, that the governor was trying to explain of 782,535,628 shillings, and also now 62 million that was supposed to be meant for retention and deposits, 967,159. Chair, cumulatively, this one comes close to 1 billion plus. So you might also want to rule on that issue of that variance, that the materiality and the net effect, in as much as the inaccuracies of financial statements. Chair, I yield back.
Okay, let's dispense the professional responsibility, because sometimes we want to fry the governor, who is an advocate, I believe, in good standing on financial reporting issues, which are done by experts who are members of our profession. So the two CPAs, are they in the room? CPA To and CPA Jepchirchir? Yes? You have followed the conversation, you prepared this financial statement. It contains significant inaccuracies, significant misstatements. Why should we not report you to the professional body for sanction? Why should we not make a conclusion that you are unfit to hold public office? Because that is an option that is available to us under the Public Audit Act. We do not want to condemn you unheard. That's CPA. Yeah, proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, through the Governor. Usually, when there is an error in the financial statement, preparation of the financial statement, the law allows a time frame for the amendment. And now we have indicated that in this year, the financial year 25-26 financial statement will make adjustment in regard to the 278 million, which was omitted at the beginning of the year.
Is it your view that those are material misstatements and material inaccuracies?
Yes, they are material, sir.
Yeah, because what you're saying casually is for things that are not material. If you make a material misstatement and then you go ahead and sign that the financial statements present a true and fair view of the enterprise, then what you're saying cannot be of use. So if that's all you've got to say, it's okay. We will ask ISPAC to look at the matter. CPA Jepchirchir.
Thank you, Chair. In addition to what Mark has said, we've taken corrective measures to address errors that occurred in the financial year.
What has he said?
I think speak for yourself because you don't share an ISPAC number. Everyone has their own ISPAC number.
Okay. Thank you. On the issue on retention deposits and account, we've taken I've personally taken corrective measure to ensure that the account is well mapped. And in the current financial year ending 30th June 2026, we've been able to wire deposits as and when we requisition for projects that are due to be retained, and the auditors will be able to verify this.
So that's in mitigation, but you agree that there were serious misstatements and inaccuracies in the financial statements?
Sure. On retention, it was a challenge of us moving from the commercial account to the CBK account, which gave us a challenge of mapping, but we were able to be assisted by National Treasury, and our account is now active and well able to take care of retentions.
Well, it's like stealing my bicycle and returning it. I don't know whether the law will let you off. The theft must be dealt with. Returning it is at another level. So, members...
Chair, maybe the two officers saw in this, because these are basic errors. So, the governor take administrative action or you order their retraining? Because I remember in the last, we had an argument and the head of supply chain then and Mark, so we had similar issues that were reappearing on the signing of financial statements. And if it points, and Chair, and you know, Nandi, where I come from, and like your place, I know where you come from. When you throw a stone, you could hit a professor. We are fairly doing very well. So my only concern is Priska and Mark saying, do they have challenges of capacity? Because I know the problem, Chair, and Governor will agree with me, is most of these things are prepared by junior accountants. Because the lady and gentleman are wadosi. They just come and sign and go away. They don't go through the financial statements. So, in other words, CEO of Finance and Mark, are you saying you need retraining, the capacity, the ability of the department to be able to generate the true and accurate position of the entity in terms of financial statements, Chair? Because if I was to become the governor, God willing, these are things you take very firm position, because I wouldn't want to be brought here for impeachment because an officer somewhere committed an error somewhere.
Yeah, I think you make a fair statement, even though the fact that someone is an ISPAC member, I do not think that is someone who still requires training on how to render financial statements. Unless the standards have been lowered at the Institute of Certified Public Accountants.
Chair, it's like our profession that when I do a plaint, a basic, and Senator Dulo will understand, and the governor, if I fail to do, for example, to draft and draw an affidavit, you know, that's a basic error for any law student in year one. So unless the refresher maybe, you don't know, or retooling, I don't know. Thank you, Chair.
I think we'll make our recommendations. It is for the governor to make his own judgment to find out whether he has the right players in his team. And I don't know, from his body language, he seems to be quite comfortable with his people and the long stories that they're telling the Senate. At the end of the day, it is between you and the people of Nandi. But for us, we must insist that things that are required by law must be done. Retentions, deposits, if you deduct, they must be provided for. It does not matter whether you are doing it from tomorrow. That money must be found. In fact, I think this is an area, these are some of the investigation areas that ESCC has been very useful on in this committee. 278 million in terms of pending bills, they cannot just come from the air. There must be continuity between closing and opening balances. So all the explanations that have been put here have not given us that assurance. And Governor, I believe if you are sitting where I'm sitting, you will probably have a similar perspective. I just wonder what usually happens when our colleagues sit on that side. Sometimes the perspective changes a bit. But it is upon you to take administrative action. It is upon us to specify professional action that should be taken and also criminal action or investigations that ESCC must undertake. Reverend, you wanted to say something in closing?
Chair, I was just wondering whether my colleagues are in good standing in their professional body. Maybe we can confirm that.
Yeah, I think we had done a check. They are in good standing, and that is why now we need to ask ISPAC whether they lowered their standards. I think people must now start taking responsibility. And we are moving beyond just blaming the governor for everything. If there's a professional in the enterprise, he must take responsibility. See, you responded to most of the financial matters. Are you also a member of ISPAC? With an ISPAC number?
Yes.
What's your membership number?
9500.
Lux, please put it on record so that we can also, because if you're a member of ISPAC, I know the law does not require you to be an ISPAC member if you're a CC, but if you are a professional in that position, then you have some responsibility, a higher responsibility that you must aspire to more than everybody else. Now, members, we can proceed.
And I agree that with your position that, you know, most of the staff, when they come with the governor, they think governor will carry out the blame. I think they should know, as per your profession, even if you are an advocate, you are a supply chain, you are in any professional body, when you commit an error, we don't take it only on the governor. They even human resource, they must be held accountable. And this should be a lesson. I know in the last engagement with Nandi, we had not taken this position as a county where we go individually for a specific profession outside the accountability being held against the governor. So I think members of staff who normally come with the governor should note that despite that the governor will be held accountable after taking the oath and tabling the management responses, the individual professions must be held accountable. And I hope it will bring sanity among our counties and also bring seriousness in terms of accounting in our entities.
Thank you, Senator, for that emphasis. Unless, Governor, you have something to say, we will move to issues of HR. In HR, in the prior year, there were 14 audit issues that were raised, and we will come to prior year issues to confirm whether they've been addressed. But let's deal with what was reported in this financial year. The numbers, variances in amounts between payroll and employee costs. Auditor General, please read your finding.
Thank you, Chair. The statement of financial performance reflects employee costs amount of Kenya shillings 3,372,701,751,000 as disclosed in Note 9 to the financial statements. However, recasting of payroll records revealed total employee cost of Kenya shillings 2,833,070,772 Kenya shillings, resulting to a reconciled variance of Kenya shillings 539,630,979 shillings. In the circumstances, the accuracy and completeness of employees' cost amount of Kenya shillings 3,372,701,751 Kenya shillings could not be confirmed. Thank you, Chair.
Governor, you may respond.
During the financial year 2023-2024 financial year, the county experienced delays in settling the month of June gross salary and associated statutory staff deductions for the month of May due to the late release of the June exchequer disbursements by the National Treasury. Consequently, these obligations were settled in the beginning of the financial year 24-25 financial year as an expense.
Is there any record to support that response, Governor? Because the auditor says there is an unreconciled variance of 539 million. I thought to respond to this, you would say what you have said and then provide an annexure that confirms that amount. It should have been very straightforward. We have a reason that sounds plausible, but we have no evidence to back it up. Governor? Or auditor, were you provided with any documentary evidence to resolve that?
Thank you, Chair. We have not been provided with a document to support the response. Thank you.
Okay, Governor. Because what this means is that you have overstated your employee expense. And we all live in Kenya, so we know that perhaps there have been issues around payroll in Nandi. So you cannot leave a matter like this undefended. So otherwise, people will say that you are paying salaries to ghost work. So do we have any schedule to support your response?
Chair, we do not have the schedule, but we can provide.
Secondly, what then was the true cost of employees for that year? For the financial year, what was the true cost? Because it determines a lot of things, including your fiscal responsibility indices.
The true employee cost was 2.833,700, and the one that is indicated 2.8 billion.
Chair, if you look at note number 9 on employees of costs, Chair, I'm not in a very good mood today. You know, Brazil lost yesterday to Norway. So, Chair, I wish the day would have been better. Because my brother and friend governor, you were not ready, or the people are letting you down, because basically you should have asked where is an attachment to show this movement. Because even in the previous argument you had given, you had not even indicated that you are paying pension scheme. But I can see here you have paid 32 million in pension and other social contribution, 32,500,000 and 261. You have paid compulsory national security schemes at 10,399. Other personnel gratuity on contract 1 million. It comes to 3,372,701 shillings, 701,751. So now you are, so this is the financial statement of this year under review. So when you tell us about the true actual cost of 2 billion plus what you are indicated on record, where is it? Because, Chair, I agree with you. If you want to know how Nandi looks like, you don't need to know Cherarghe or governor. You need to look at the financial statements. It should speak to itself. So, Chair, where does the governor get this true actual spending on? And I'm of course, I'm aware there were issues with the payroll, and it is matter that is under investigation by the ESCC. But the true actual cost, this variance of 539 million, 630,971. And when, sorry for taking long, when you go to basic wages of temporary employees, you are paying 26,228,750 as per note number 9 in your financial statement. Even if you look at the audit query, which come later, Chair, you can see, I think it was, sorry, just give me a minute so that I tie up my argument, Chair. When you look at audit number 6 on the reduction of employees and the spending the actual total cost. And even when you look at Chair, I wanted to tie up, or even that were paid outside human resource integrated system. In the report, Governor, you paid through manual 85,202,776, and you paid casual payroll outside the human resource integrated system 70,338,749. This is huge amount, and therefore, when you come at variance of 539,630,979 Kenya shillings, Chair, then the governor should assuade us not to believe that they were post workers that were paid. That is why they could not trace 539 million. So can the governor assuade us not to believe that the payment outside the human resource integrated system of casual and temporary employees as disclosed under note number 9, can he rest that so that it becomes easy to proceed? I yield back the mic, Chair.
Okay, Senator Maruma, so that you can answer jointly.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Governor, when I look at the query, you stated that the employee cost was 3.3 billion, but then upon recasting, the total employee cost came down to 2.8 billion. And in your explanation, you are saying that it's because there was late exchequer release, and so of the previous year, and so the payment for the employees was made in that particular year, so it hiked the employee costs. But I thought if there is late exchequer release, then that figure should appear as an employee payable. It should appear as a pending bill. Why should it appear here as a real cost to be paid for that particular year? I thought it should be a pending bill. And then again, I agree with the chair that where is the schedule, the evidence showing that employees were not paid in that particular year or the previous year, and they were paid in that particular year. Hence that variance. So I think that needs to be explained better.
Governor?
Governor Chair, the 539 million is actually for 23-24. It's a figure for the previous year, not the year under audit.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
It is for 23-24.
Yes.
In 24-25, it should have appeared as a pending. Because the pending bills would be more because there was late exchequer release. And then you have to demonstrate that because of the late exchequer release, the pending bills were high, but then these were the people who didn't pay, and now we have paid. And so that deals with that variance of 539 million.
Shushe, even if you look, CC, before you respond, even Chair, if you look at note number 32, as you have said, if it was an expense that was carried over, even in employees payables, it is still nil. So if you were reflected in your financial statement, note number 32, we would have seen that movement. It would have been easy.
Yeah, it should have been maybe as an opening balance, because it was subsequently clear. Auditor General, if this related to salaries for prior year, should it have been reflected as an opening balance?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it should, under note that too. But then, because the county is transitioning to accrual, this expense should not relate to the financial year 2024-2025, because it would have gone back now to the previous year. Because what they're supposed to report now is the actual payroll cost for 2024-2025, because they are reporting on accrual now. Thank you.
Okay, the long and short of it, is there any evidence to support your assertion that the 539 was May and June salaries? I think that would be a very easy thing to substantiate, to avoid all the speculation that is going on.
Yes, Chair. Really, we can get the payroll for that last financial year for 23-24, which shows the 539. And just, Chair, to clarify is that 23-24 we reported cash basis. So by the close of the year, 539 million was nowhere. So for prudence or for full disclosure, then we ended up capturing in this year because it wouldn't have been anywhere in the previous financial year because it was cash basis. But truth is, going forward, we're actually able to just show salaries for 12 months as it is.
The reason why I'm frustrated is that this could be the fourth matter where you are asking to go back and get proper evidence. We started with 278 million. We went to 62 million. We are now on 539 million. You have requested for time, and generally you've requested for time.
Financial statement might not have been truly disclosed the true and accurate position of the entity. Chair, maybe we can still do another test of one or two in the employees' compensation, because this one on 539, I can see there are a number of issues on employees which was there in the previous year under review, the previous prior year matters, but now there are others on this financial year, Chair.
I think because we are slowly getting frustrated, but that should not kill our spirit, because we've got a public duty to go through these reports. I think let's deal with one other issue of financial statements and then take a view from there. But it would also be important for us to spend a little bit of time on HR issues that are contained in this report. So, Auditor General, I think all the issues we have addressed, none of them has been cleared for lack of supporting documentation. So they remain outstanding. Let's look at these transfers from the County Revenue Fund. There where you had told us that the money that left the CRF is different from the money that got to the executive, and find out whether we can resolve that one. Inaccuracies in transfers from the County Revenue Fund.
Thank you, Chair. Inaccuracies in the transfers from County Revenue Fund. Note 6 to the financial statements reflects transfers from County Revenue Fund totaling Kenya shillings 7,599,066,478 Kenya shillings. That is made up of recurrent account of Kenya shillings 6,439,545 1,543 Kenya shillings, and development account of Kenya shillings 1,159,520,935. However, the financial statements of County Revenue Fund reflect transfers to the county government amount of Kenya shillings 7,733,771,378, resulting to an explained variance of Kenya shillings 134,704,900 Kenya shillings. In the circumstances, the accuracy and completeness of transfers from County Revenue Fund, amount of Kenya shillings 7,599,066,478 could not be confirmed. Thank you, Chair.
Governor, and again the page number, because you've skipped a few pages.
Page 6.
Okay, proceed.
The variance of Kenya shillings 134,704,900 arose as a result of mispresentation in the County Revenue Fund. The actual transfer is as detailed in Note 6 of the Nandi County Executive financial statements. The transfers in the County Revenue Fund included transfers of self-reporting units, which ideally should be independent. The actual transfers were made directly to the respective funds, as shown below, with Flocker 62,500, 62,500,000, emergency 39,895,600, KUSP 32,309,300, totaling up to 134,704,900. The extract of the financial statements is attached in Annexure 6. The audit was concluded.
Sorry, that's the auditor's conclusion. Yeah, that paragraph is the auditor's conclusion, isn't it? Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So you just stop there. So, Auditor, Annexure 6, does it address the concern?
Thank you, Chair. Based on the response from the management, there is clearly a misstatement, the financial statement. So the confirmation of the action taken or the amendments will be done during the audit of the 2025-2026 financial statements. The adjustment that will be passed to correct the error. Thank you, Chair.
But then, Chair, we need to understand how then the transfers were done directly to the self-reporting entities. Is it from the exchequer to the self-reporting entities? Because then, if that is the case, how this audit query is framed, it looks like there was some money that came into the account and left the account. You can see that money. So how come it's like money coming from exchequer direct to the self-reporting entities? How is it indicated in the CRF account? Why should it be captured in the CRF account? Because the gravity of your query is that money came and money left, and there's a variance. But what the governor said is that there is some money that came directly to the self-reporting entities. Directly from where?
Thank you, Chair. Normally, when there are transfers from exchequer, they first hit the CRF account. Then the CRF is supposed to transfer to the county assembly, the county executive, and other self-reporting entities, not directly from exchequer to self-reporting entities. Thank you, Chair.
And that's why I'm asking, if there was that view of money coming into the CRF account from exchequer, and it left the account, you must have that visibility, that this money that came from the exchequer to the CRF account, and it left and went to different entities. Why do you make this conclusion of this variation, 134 million? Because like you're saying, there was less money that came into the CRF account, and there's more money that left the CRF account. Is that my reading of your query?
Thank you, Chair. What we are comparing here is the amount reflected in the CRF as transfers to the county executive. And amount reflected in the account executive as amount received from CRF. The two amounts should tally ordinarily, but there was a variance between the two amounts as reported.
Now, members, the governor has referred to mispresentation. Mispresentation. Is that the word that you have used? Mispresentation, which is an admission that the financial statements were not prepared properly. Because that breakdown that you have shared, perhaps we should have seen those transfers directly rather than having the bulk of amount going to the executive. But looking at the report on the County Revenue Fund, that misrepresentation is not only limited to transfers to the executive. Even transfers to the County Assembly has been queried. Now, let's because of time, let's just pick that matter in the CRF report. Auditor General, the inaccuracies in transfers to County Assembly in the CRF report, was that resolved? Just look at it quickly. Tell us if it was resolved, then we can say they are taking measures. If it's unresolved, then we know that there's a serious problem in the county. Members, I was just looking at the report on the County Revenue Fund because this matter that we are dealing with has also been reported in the CRF financial statement. And in there's also a problem with transfers to County Assembly, where there's an unexplained variance of 35 million. That's paragraph number 2. There are misstatements in exchequer releases, inaccuracies in transfers to County Assembly, and inaccuracies in transfers to County Executive. That's the one we have been dealing with, the one of transfer to County Executive. Auditor, in your view, the inaccuracies in transfer to County Assembly, was a 35 million explained?
Thank you, Chair. On the issue of inaccuracies in the transfers to County Assembly, management concurs with the audit observation and highlighted that the cause for variance was erroneous misposting. So there is also an error there. So we have not resolved the issue. The issue was not addressed under CRF financial statements.
So there was an error in your transfers to the executive, an error in your transfer to county assemblies, and obviously an error in the transfer to self-reporting units. And again, I will keep asking you this because you left us in the Senate and we wished you well in the county. Are you not worried about these errors, Governor?
Chair, yes, there are issues, but I think we are explaining them. We have made explanations, but definitely we still need to give further clarification, which we request that if you direct us, we can do it within the shortest time possible, because we have given the explanations, Chair.
What's the explanation for the variance of 35 million transferred to the Assembly? Because, again, there is a live matter. I don't know whether we still call it a live matter, but there are people in jail from Homa Bay County Assembly on a matter similar to this, where money left the executive and not all of it went to the Assembly. Part of it went to private accounts, and there have been convictions. There are people who are in prison as we speak of a matter similar to this. So it's not a light matter. We need to be assured that whatever was sent to the Assembly was received by the Assembly, not received in the pockets of individuals. Senator Dulo, you wanted to
Chair,
emphasize something?
I just wanted to ask whether there was a loss of funds, auditor, as a result of that transfer.
Thank you, Chair. There was no loss of funds because the management has admitted that it was just a posting error in the financial statements. Thank you, Chair.
What does that mean?
Auditor, you also have, as much as you have a responsibility to give us assurance, I think you also have some residual advisory responsibility to the entity. If it was a misposting, it means that they inflated their expenditure, isn't it?
That's true, Chair.
Yeah, so how can that be something to easily explain? Because numbers must balance. So if you say you sent 35 million more,
Yes.
and yet you didn't send 35 million more, so where is that 35 million?
Chair, I was commenting about the issue of loss, because without evidence, you cannot say that the money went to somebody's pocket outside the what was budgeted for in the county.
The evidence we have are these financial statements. One financial statement says 766 million was sent to the assembly. Another financial statement says only 731 million was received by the assembly. And therefore there's a variance of 35 million. What do we call that 35 million?
Thank you, Chair. This, as explained, is a misclassification. According to their response,
they are here, they will tell us their response, but you queried this and escalated it, issued a certificate saying that 35 million cannot be explained.
yes.
What I'm just asking you is if you now have clarity on the 35 million on where it is. If not, then let the entity explain.
Thank you, Chair. They will explain, but as at the time of audit and conclusion of our reports, they are not explained. The issue is coming too late when we had already concluded the audit, and based on their response, this is only subject to confirmation when they correct the errors in the financial statements of 2025.
Let's get the explanation. Let's get the explanation from the entity, because it cannot be you to explain it. So, Governor, just to contextualize it, from your financial statements, which we restrict ourselves entirely to the financial statements so that we don't bring in extraneous issues. From your financial statements, you transferred 766 million to the assembly. But from the assembly's financial statements, they received only 731 million. 35 million cannot be accounted for.
Chair, let me ask the Chief Officer to give us an explanation of that.
Chief Officer?
Thank you, Chair. Through His Excellency the Governor, the true position is the amount that you transferred to County Assembly is as captured.
Mention the amount.
The amount that you transferred to County Assembly is 731,630,547.
What about what you have in note 13 to the financial statements?
What we had posted as 766 included a figure of 350 million, which was indeed a transfer to FLOCA program, and we have as evidence in the CRF bank statement.
350 million.
335. Sorry, 35 million. Sorry.
We want you to be clear. The note 10 that is referred to by the Auditor General indicates you sent 766 million. Could you explain that?
The figure that we captured in the financial statement as transfer is 766 million. That was not the correct figure. The correct figure is 731 million, giving that variance of 35 million. This was an error of misposting, as we explained to the auditors, and the figure can be traced to 35 million being transferred to a self-reporting unit, that is FLOCA. We have the revenue, the CRF statement to demonstrate the same.
So that could be the 6th error we are dealing with today on the financial statements. I wish ISPAC was here.
And even misstatement in even CRF number 1, the variance of 567,884,336. From the disclosed, there was a variance even from the National Treasury. Then this one that 35 million inaccuracy transfer to county assembly. And then the interrelated relative to this, to the main certificate of executive of 134 is reappearing in number 3. So these errors and misstatements or misclassification is becoming too much.
Sorry,
And the governor is not assuading us from believing that there is a problem.
Let's go back to that note again. I'm sorry, I said note 10, but it's note 13 in the CRF. Note 13, which breaks down transfers to county assembly, which is clearly stated as 766, which you have admitted also was erroneous. Now, in terms of correcting it, is it a subsequent year reporting correction, or how have you addressed it? Because you're explaining that no, it ought to have been 730. It ought to have been 730 what? 731. But here it reads 766. I didn't get your explanation on that 35 million. Where is it? Where it went? Can you show us in the financial statement or in the notes? Or is it something that you are planning to rectify in subsequent year?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Through the Governor, we are going to correct in the 25-26 financial statement, but the amount, the variance of 35 million can be evidenced by the revenue fund account, the CRF statement of 35 million being transferred to FLOCA account.
But why would one statement be superior to the other? This one says 766 million was transferred. They are all statements prepared by competent people. So you can't tell me that this is wrong, but the other one, disregard one and adopt the other one. Now, Auditor, how do we get assurance as a Senate that the 766 we are seeing here did not in reality go to the Assembly and then, or did not leave the fund destined for the Assembly, and then it was received at the Assembly 35 million less?
Thank you, Chair. We can confirm this from the financial statements of the County Assembly and confirm the correct figure that they received. Thank you.
No, that one you've already stated. You're saying the Assembly received 731. The Executive dispatched 766. And they're saying it was an error, that 35 million went to a self-reporting entity. How do we get that assurance that that indeed is true?
Thank you, Chair. I think with the confirmation of the management and what they have indicated as an error, we will go ahead and confirm from the financial statements of FLOCA and the other entities.
Auditor, you're the one who does the auditing for the Assembly. Did you check that time when there was that variance?
Yes, we checked and confirmed that. Sorry?
What did you find as the receipts to the County Assembly? Is it 731 or the other figure?
Honorable Chair, let me state that we did confirm, and from the audit point of view, what we usually do, we compare the two financial statements and raise a concern on the unreconcilable differences, and that is why we raised the audit observation.
So the observation is complete. That finding is complete.
As at now, there's still variance.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And Governor, it was your assertion that that 35 million went to which fund?
The FLOCA, climate.
And Chair, if it went to FLOCA, can't we find as a transfer from CRF?
Yeah, because under Annex 6, under Annex 6, you attach certain financial statements, maybe just to help you. And the third was an extract of FLOCA. And in that extract of FLOCA, you are demonstrating the 62.5 million, which I think was reasonable in the earlier query. So where is this 35 million? Because we are looking at an extract of statement of financial performance for Nandi County Climate Change Fund. Under Appendix 6, Annexure 6, the financial statements that were submitted by the government. Because that 62.5 had already been fully accounted for by the governor in the earlier query. So what about this 35 million? The officer who said you can clearly see it in FLOCA, please help us, we can't clearly see it.
To the Governor Chair, in our CRF statement, and you look at, and I'll share shortly with you, just in case you don't have a copy there. On 2nd of July, 2025, there's an FT, a funds transfer from our CBK account to the FLOCA account, 35 million.
Where is it? Through the chair.
I will share what I have here briefly.
No. We are not taking new evidence unless the chair directs. Is it part of your annexures? Whatever you're reading?
We made reference to it. But this is a statement I've just asked to be printed out.
Is it part? I was referring to Annexure 6, which the governor tabled under oath, which is the evidence before us. What you're referring to, is it part of Annexure 6?
Annexure 6 is a product of the statement, the bank statement. So I just went for a further detailed bank statement to explain what we have in Annex 6.
Chair, out of curiosity.
But the chief officer said we would see it in the financial statement,
yes,
not the bank statement.
Yes,
and that's why I brought you to where your financial statements are. So because remember, the 62.5 million has been accounted for under the 134 million query, which you are provided a detailed breakdown of the three: Nandi Climate Change Fund, Nandi County Emergency Fund, and County Government of Nandi Kapsabet Municipality, which sounded reasonable to explain the earlier question. But now you have said that these variants in transfers to the assembly, we will be able to see it in the financial statements of the Climate Change Fund. So show it to us, because we can see 62.5 million, which explains the earlier query. Where is the 35 million, which you allege didn't go to the assembly, went to FLOCA? Where is it in the financial statements?
You should have read the complete set of the FLOCA so that you see the breakdown, the financial statements.
So you're the ones who chose to bring the one-pagers to us, because the one-page is a snapshot. But whatever it is, whether it was 10 pages, we should be able to see it as revenue from either exchange or non-exchange transactions, isn't it? The 35 million.
Yes, so Chair, what you see on the FLOCA is a sum total made up of several transfers for FLOCA. That's why then my bank statement then has the breakdown of which
so
35
is the 35 million part of the 62 million?
Yes, as shown on the statement.
That 62 million was used to account for 134 million.
Correct.
In the prior query.
But that is still FLOCA funds, right?
No, 134, you accounted for 134 by saying you sent money to FLOCA, you sent money to the municipality, and you sent money to the emergency fund.
Correct.
And we accepted that explanation. Correct. So you can't use the same explanation for the 35 million unless we see a transfer of 35 million in this financial statement.
That FLOCA.
You can't use the same answer for two different questions. Unfortunately, this is money. This is not theory.
Because, Chair, the accuracy of financial, and that is why I asked the first question, is the governor running away from the financial statements? Because if what is in the financial statement, the CCM does not believe is the true accurate position of the entity. And interestingly, Governor, your CC is like carrying Wakenya. He has more information than you. I thought he should have given this information when you are sitting to prepare this information. I thought that should be the position.
In this case, you could be carrying the wrong Mwakenya because you are not getting the right answers.
Because Chair, so CC and Governor, do you want us, so are we disregarding what Chief Officer of Finance said and then go for your bank statement? Yet it cannot be tabled now because Chair, I'm on what the Governor refers as in Annexure 6 on Flocker Emergency and KSUP. And I've seen 62.5 million as other income, but it is not reflective of what the CCM is going through in the bank statement.
Yeah, so CC, what are you trying to tell us from the bank statement? Maybe we should give you an opportunity, but be factual and brief.
Thank you, Chair. So the 35 million, when we made our financial statements, it just came just after the financial year, but we had, that is 2nd of July, and the cutoff period we had been given is up to 10th of July. So when these funds hit our account, the understanding, or since it wasn't clear, we thought this is part of the county assembly fund, so that is why the disclosure came on the county assembly side. But with more information coming, that is why on the response that we're giving is that these has then to be restated to show that county assembly 731, not 766, and the Flocker funds should reflect this amount of 35 million, and that is an item that
what were you are referring to some documents which had said we are not going to admit. What would have been their value in terms of explaining this matter? Because I know we didn't give you an opportunity. I'm asking you, those bank statements that you're talking about, what were they supposed to confirm?
Just to know exactly where the 35 million is sitting.
And you mentioned a date in July.
Yes, 2nd of July, 2025.
The disbursements to the county assembly, Governor, and maybe now we can go back to policy and practice. We would expect, if there's a budget that's been approved and that the county assembly ought to get, say, 600 and, let's say 600 million, and all the money comes, you receive your full exchequer release. Do you allocate to the assembly fully as per their budget, or you make some considerations and you reduce their allocation?
We give them their entire budget.
You give them the entire budget?
Yeah.
So in this case, in this financial year, what was the budget for the county assembly? Was it 766 or 731?
731.
And in terms of payment, are you able to, okay, maybe there's no strict control where if you have a budget of 731 and you use the same vote to pay 35 million more, maybe the system does not have that control of matching budget and expenditure. Reverend, if the budget for the assembly was 731 and it's already been captured, and then they were to transfer 766, 35 million more, the system allows that?
Chair, they cannot transfer money without approval from control of budgets. And the control of budget has to check what the budget, what the amount in the budget and the amount that they are transferring. So the control of budget is the one that checks whether what they are transferring and what was approved they are tallying. If they are not tallying, they cannot be transferred.
Okay, Governor, I'm seeing we are getting to that time where the House sits usually at 2:30, and we try to tie our meetings to that 2:30 timing. We need to make some progress. We've dealt with about 6-7 financial statement issues. None of them have been resolved to the satisfaction of this committee. We are still left with question marks around the 35 million. I think we will give directions on how this matter should be handled. But if we were to push it to the next audit cycle, then there needs to be proper explanation or justification. We have asked the Auditor General whether it's indicative of loss. I think someone had asked Senator Dulo whether it's indicative of loss of public resources, and you have said you can't tell. But I've also given you a live example of a county where such operations were used to steal public resources. I think even in Migori, the EACC is investigating a matter where the money that left the executive was more than the money received by the assembly. And there was some firewall in between where money got lost. So I hope this is not the case. And members, we can apply our minds to it. And if the auditors can tell us they're satisfied, it's okay. If they're not, then it can be investigated along Homa Bay, Migori, and a few other cases where the transfers do not make sense. If you allow, in the next few minutes, we just deal with one or two HR issues and maybe take a view on how to deal with the residual matters. Honorable members, we can proceed to, we can get out of the County Revenue Fund statement and go back to the County Executive statement. The matter of undisclosed contingent liabilities, Governor, are you here with your county attorney?
No, the county attorney is not here.
But there's a substantive office holder.
Yes.
You have a substantive county attorney.
Yes.
Yeah, because when you do not disclose contingent liabilities, it is partially a problem of the accountants and partially a problem of the legal practitioners. Now, this matter, I think, Auditor General, you said it's still outstanding because it was not disclosed in the financial statements. It can only be corrected going forward.
Yes, Chair.
So we can keep it in view. On HR, perhaps we start with this matter of redundancies. Then we come back to the issues of where there are conflict on figures. Let's understand this matter, Auditor General, and explain redundancies.
Thank you, Chair. Unexplained redundancies. Review of payroll records reviewed a significant reduction in staff numbers from 4,884 in the month of September 2024 to 2,999 in the month of October 2024, resulting to a variance of 1,885 staff. Management attributed the reduction to dismissals and terminations. However, the dismissal records accounted for 1,863 staff, leaving an unexplained variance of 22 staff whose employment status could not be determined. In addition, there was no documentary evidence presented to confirm the reasons for dismissal, the due process followed, or whether the affected staff were issued with certificates of service as required. In the circumstances, management was in breach of the law. Thank you, Chair.
The management.
Sorry, just the page number because
17.
Page 17. Yes, you may proceed.
Chairman, the management reinstated 29 Walter Reed staff to the payroll. Subsequently, 7 of the officers retired, leaving 22 active officers in the system, thereby accounting for the observed variance. The comprehensive list of the reinstated staff, including details of those who have exited service, has been prepared and is available for review by the auditors, and we have Annex 11.
If you read the second last sentence of the auditor's observation, Auditor General, can you read it, the one that starts with "in addition"?
Thank you, Chair. In addition, there was no documentary evidence presented to confirm the reasons for dismissal, the due process followed, whether the affected staff were issued with certificates of service as required.
Governor, what's your response on that part? Because you seem to have responded to the first part of 29. Do we have anything on record to just to help us understand the process, whether it was lawful and prudent? That is the objective of audit, whether actions taken are lawful and whether they are prudent. So the auditor queried the due process followed, and I thought that you would do a summary, just because I would be happy to propose the model you used to other counties, including mine. We have a seriously bloated wage bill, which PricewaterhouseCoopers has looked at, has made recommendations, but we've not been able to take action. I would be very happy to ask my county to come and benchmark with Nandi. So, do you have anything on record, or you, since you're on oath, you can explain the process that was taken?
Chair, we do not have any of the documents as part of the bundle of documents presented, but since I'm here, I can be able to just give a rundown of the process. When we had a national wage bill conference in our, nationally we were participants as counties, and the whole discussion around the runaway wage bills and what contributes to the huge, to the runaway wage bills within counties was shared with us through the through the conference. Part of the resolutions of the conference, which we were part of as county governments participants, was a recommendation on how to deal with wage bill. And one of the recommendations was that county governments or entities, both in counties and county governments and national governments should undertake HR audit processes. We did decide as a county government to undertake the HR audit. We had the option of engaging some of the government entities or human resource consultants. In our case, we decided to engage the Public Service Commission. We did engage the Public Service Commission. They came to the county. They did HR audit through the process and gave us a report. And out of the report, and I think part of that report has been shared in part of the committees within this house. It has been a subject of discussion within maybe not within this committee. We have alluded to it severally in this committee, but also in the various other committees. So when the report came out from the Public Service Commission, the County Public Service Board, we owned the report and we received the report as a county government executive, and the County Public Service Board, since that is the entity that is, charged with that responsibility, also got the report. They considered the report, adopted the report, and worked on and initiated their own process of adopting the report and implementing the report. Part of the recommendations of the Public Service Commission report, Human Resource Audit report on our county, was that it showed that there were massive irregularities in the processes of hiring, some irregularities in terms of promotions, some irregularities in terms of, the terms of payment for staff, some of them, irregularities on the payment of some allowances. Some staff were getting allowances that they do not deserve. Others were missing some allowances that they deserve. So there was a whole report that captured that. But at the center of that report was the flawed or the hiring processes that were irregular. And the recommendation by the Public Service report that was adopted by the Public Service Board was to undertake, termination, so that then a fresh process that, abides by the law was undertaken. So the Public Service Board did the process of